Hey everyone, I'm James Joshua Otto and I'm here today for 8DO to walk you through the new Synthetic Shadows sample library. What we're going to do is the usual format for one of these walkthrough videos, so I'm going to show you the interface, some of the sounds that you get with the library, and then finally I'll show you a piece of my own where I've used the samples as part of the piece and show you how that worked in context. So let's jump right in. The instrument runs through Contact, and the interface will be one you're familiar with if you've got other 8DO instruments. You can see here, if we enter in, we've got the usual file browser. Now, Synthetic Shadows comes with 16 different sets, and within each set there are different subcategories, as you can see here. So we're in the drums set right now. You can see we've got the standard controls for that you'll be familiar with, so things like attack and release adjustments, pitch envelope, and sample offset. We've got a speed adjustment, which, as you can see on this drums one, isn't active. I'll come on to that a bit later on. It only works with certain sets. And then we've got the stack control, which again I'll expand on a bit later on, and the stretch, reverse, and chaos controls here. If you want a bit more information on any of the controls of the interface, you can press the I button just there, and that will give you more details about what everything does. So I'm not going to spend too long on that. What we'll do is we'll move straight on and have a listen to some of the sounds that you get with Synthetic Shadows. So in the drums, we've got 4 different kits, which are laid out like you'd expect. So we've got kicks, we've got snares, hi-hats, cymbals, and then other drums, toms and things up here. And each of the 4 kits is laid out like that. Each one, I'd say, has its own kind of personality, various kind of different traits to each one. But you can see straight away that there's loads of different sounds that you get with the drums here. Really nice amount of choice. And then we've also got the 9-drum industrial kit, which has quite a different character to the other 4. So that's, again, just giving you a few more options there with the drums. Next up, we've got effects. And what I'm going to do is actually, I'm going to show you the Time Machine Pro set. The effects come in 2 different sets. So you've got the standard one and the Time Machine ones. And the Time Machine ones are more memory intensive. You can see here it's taking up 1.8 gig of memory. But it does give us a few extra options with manipulating the sound. So this is where the speed dial comes into play. The speed is just going to let you adjust the length of the sample that you're using. So, for example, let me show you with something that has an attack. I'll show you with a boomer. And then you can speed this up, or you can slow it right down. So that's really helpful, just to give you an extra bit of control there. So let's just play a few more boomers while we're there. And then let's show you some ambiances. Now you can see with all of these, we've got key switches to change the key. So you can make it sit more comfortably in the key that you're working in for your track. Let's have a listen to some of these assorted effects. They're a bit more mixed. Downers. Droppers. We've got some echo hits as well. Lovely, really good for adding a bit of space. And we've got some growlers. Let's have a listen to these. These are really good for like sort of trailery kind of intense big hits. We've got two types of rises, gritty ones like this. And we've got softer rises as well. What I really like about the rises in Synthetic Shadows is that they're pretty long, which means you can really have a nice big build-up. But you can also use the stretch feature if you want to adjust that. So it can be really good to kind of change the length of your rises using that. What the stretch does, if you can't tell, is it just maps the most recently played sample to the whole keyboard, so you can stretch it up and down. Changes the length of it. But of course, we can also use the speed control to do that within the Time Machine set. Let's have a listen to some strikers. So the strikers, as you can hear, they start off really small and then they have a sudden crescendo into the hit. So they're really useful for accentuating hits. So I've listened to some tonal boomers. They're pretty cool. And the whooshes. Exactly what it says on the tin. Lovely. Now, also included in Synthetic Shadows are a few sort of orchestral inspired sounds, but with a much more synthetic edge. So we've got brass here. There we go. So you can see I'm using the mod wheel here to adjust the low pass cutoff. And all of the sounds within Synthetic Shadows have that capability. Now let's move on to some of the orchestral percussion sounds. Just a few options in there. We've got some strings too. And some short, sort of more staccato strings. Nice. Winds. And short winds. So that's kind of a flavour of the orchestral sounds that you get with Synthetic Shadows. Now, we're moving on to bass bursts. Now, you can see here we've got a lot of sounds within this set. So I'm just going to demonstrate a few of those for you. Resonators, here is one that I used in my track, which I'll show you in a minute. Really like those. We've also got a analog ensemble, breath sort of analog ensemble. So let's have a listen to these. These are kind of sort of more paddy sounds. Again, really works well with riding the mod wheel up and down here. So you can see we've got the shorter sounds here too. Now the arcs, they are what you'd expect really. They kind of have a sound that arcs up and down in terms of the dynamics, so you don't need to use the mod wheel for those. And then we've got the same with the shorter ones here. Right, let's have a listen to some of these decaying plucks. I like these a lot. You can see each of these has quite a different character and works really well. So we've got a stacking feature here, and you can see here if I stack, just click stack, and then I can select multiple options here, and it layers the sounds. And that's really a useful option to save you having to load loads of instances of Contact or anything. It can really help you create some sort of extra sounds within the context of your piece. We've also got these 4 synth ensembles. So these are just simply the waves that are described in the title. I really like these. I think they're really good for sort of padding out texture that you're already working with. Let's have a listen to some of the leads that are included, shall we? So we've got a load of options here. Really like those. Let's have a listen to some of the pianos. These work really well, actually. I've used the Sapphire one in my track again, which I'll show you shortly. Really nice sort of e-piano kind of vibe. The plucks that are included in Synthetic Shadows are absolutely brilliant. You've got loads of options here, and each one has its own distinct character, and I think a lot of these are really useful for if you like creating sort of arpeggio textures, motors and things like that in the background of your tracks. These work really well, especially when combined with mod adjustment. So let's have a listen to some of the short basses. These are cool. Nice to add a bit of punch. We've also got some sustained plucks too. And then finally, we've got some synth textures. And these, again, are just absolutely stunning. Works so well for adding width and texture and a lot of detail to the sort of canvas background sound of your track. Just show you one more of those. So hopefully that should give you an idea of the sort of sounds you can expect within Synthetic Shadows. What we're going to do now is I'm going to show you my track, Nocturnal, where I've used a lot of Synthetic Shadows to kind of build the track. So you can see in the Logic file here, a lot of the file is Synthetic Shadows. Most of the sound that you'll hear is Synthetic Shadows. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play you the Synthetic Shadows parts first on their own, and I can just point out then as we go through kind of where various sounds were useful within the piece. So here we go. So you can see here, I'm using the resonators, as I said before, the bass bursts. And then we've also got the synth piano Sapphire option here, which just on that triplet pattern, which works really well. as well as the Plucks here. I've got a few layers of the Plucks going, just running through an arpeggiator. Again, with that mod adjustment, it works really well. And then this is battery Plucks. And then that hi-hat there just running through another arpeggiator. You can see they're in contact. Just giving us a nice movement. These growlers, I think, which work so well. Of course, we've got the key switches down here just to change the note as we're going through. And then we've got some drums here as well, just with a bit of a filter on there, just the low pass to kind of give it that nice texture. And then the amazing risers here, running with the mod adjustment to really take us into that final drop down here. We've got the second riser and this downer. And we've got these Plucks here, synth Plucks, which are doubling some staccato strings. And of course the growlers going strong here, and the strikers. So there you go. So that is the way that I've used synthetic shadows in my piece Nocturnal. I've really enjoyed working with synthetic shadows. It's been an absolute pleasure and given me a lot of options to work with. And hopefully some of the things I've showed you in this video will also be things that you can use in your own compositions. So I'm going to leave it there. I think that's hopefully that's given you a good overview of synthetic shadows. I'm going to sign off by playing you my track Nocturnal. I've been James Joshua Otto, and this is Synthetic Shadows by 8DO, featured in my piece Nocturnal. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Cheers.